This is a very special event. We're trying to kind of think out the box and how we promote and present the services of our members. Tonight, we invited Led Black, which is the editor-in-chief of Uptown Collective and the founder, and Vladimir Bautista, co-founder and owner of Happy Munkey. I won't bore you with the details. I'm gonna let them tell the story and enjoy the show.
What up, everybody? My name is Led Black of Uptown Collective. We're here on sacred ground, right? This is where Dyckman Electronics used to be. Yes. Right? It was a hub for Dominicans for years, right? So you bought your ACs, you sent them DR from this very spot. So I think this is blessed, sacred ground, and I think it's amazing and almost like cosmic that my brother Vladimir and Ramon, opened this up here, right? So first, let's give it up for them for that. And then secondly, let's shout out Washington Heights Chamber of Commerce for all the good work they've been doing for a long time. Let's hear for them. I think Dominicans, we're natural born businessmen, right? Like we hustle. No buscamos, you know what I'm saying? So thank you for them, and thank you for the Inward Merchants Association for also doing this. And Vladimir, let's just get right to it, man. I don't know if people understand how important Happy Munkey was for cannabis in New York City, right? And let's just go back. Like, I'm Dominican, my mother's old school Dominican, right? There's a stigma with weed, right, that we always had. But I think if anyone could use it, it's our old people, our people. You know what I'm saying? For a lot of reasons. So one of the things I remember back in the days, used to go and buy weed in the corner, maybe get arrested, all this stuff, and it was always a sneaky thing, right? The first time I felt cannabis freedom was with Happy Munkey, right? And for those that don't know, they opened up a groundbreaking spot in 2017 on 38th Street. Right, and the thing was, right, for those that know, you didn't know what it was. It was just it was 350 or 450?
350.
350, right? You got the address, and then you're walking down the block, and you're like, yo, what is this? That's my voice right there. But you didn't know. You would walk by, and you're like, what is this? And you would almost pass by. It was just a freight elevator. And when you got in that freight elevator, it was actually like a real freight elevator with like meat coming up and down, and you're like, am I in the right place? And then you will go up to the 5th floor, and it would smell like, I know that smell. But then when you cross the threshold, there will be a person like an admin checking you in, and hey, how you doing? Have a good day. And then you would walk into the room, you're like, and it was like the first dispensary in New York City that no one had done that. They're groundbreaking. And I remember taking people, my brother Eugene, who's over here today, the first time I took him to Happy Munkey, he kept telling me, yo, Led, I love you. Yo, Led, I love you. Like every few minutes, right? Because that feeling that I had with what you did there was amazing. So let's start we're gonna go from legacy to legendary, right? So how does it feel to be here after almost a 10-year, decade run to be here from 38th to here?
Well, it feels really good because, I spent the last 7 years, like you said, since that time, since we started that movement in 38th Street, going around the country and around the world. I do public speaking and learning about, the medicinal benefits, the legal benefits, and a lot about cannabis. And, this was not something we had to do. This is something we chose to do, right? Because we could have opened this nice spot, any affluent neighborhood, Upper West Side, Tribeca, Soho, but we feel like we would be hypocrites. We've been saying for 7 years that we don't do it for the clout, we do it for the culture. And one of the biggest things we noticed was that our culture and our community was getting left out of the conversation when it came to the benefits that this could create, generational wealth, the employment, the taxes, the medicinal benefits. So it feels good not just to bring the cannabis to our community, but to bring the education, the inspiration, and the information to the heart of our community right here.
That's amazing. Let's hear it for my brother. Come on. So going back to 38th Street, it was funny, right? Because the way I got put on, I heard it was like almost like an urban myth, an urban legend. Like, hey, you heard about this place where it's like a real dispensary in New York? And it was my connect, my plug, who said, no, but you don't want to go there. It's too expensive. He don't want to tell me, right? Because then I stopped being my plug, right? And then I get a call from Ramon, and he was like, yo, Led, I'm doing this thing. I was like, that's you? And again, it was one of those things that revolutionized cannabis, right? Because it wasn't just about cannabis. And I remember you guys used to do yoga. You know, I mean, like, they did a boat ride in 2018. I remember it was August 11th, 2018. Because my birthday's August 13th, right? And I remember being on a boat ride. I paid $150 to get on the boat, and I got $150 worth of weed. So I got it for free. So it was amazing, right? And it was probably one of the greatest nights of my life. I was there. It was the first time I heard Sicko Mode by Drake and Travis Scott. But I remember being, and that night there was like stars in that boat. And I remember that night when I was leaving. Okay, so now it's a whole night of being on the boat, and they're gonna go party to the spot on 38th. And I remember, like, I said, I'm saying, yo, I'm going home. I'm kind of high. I don't want to do this anymore. And the guy goes to me, yo, Leg, come to the after party. It wouldn't be the same without you. And that to me was what makes you guys special, because from the very beginning, it was about hospitality, right? It wasn't so much, cannabis was part of it, but you created this cultural thing. Was that the idea from the beginning?
Yeah, so that's an interesting story how that whole thing came about, because the way it came about, you mentioned my partner Ramon earlier, Reyes. You know, there's 4 of us. 2 of my partners owned that. That was a recording studio that was there for many years. And Ramon went to Holland, Amsterdam on a vacation. And over there, they've been more progressive than us. And they have like cannabis cafes and stuff like that. And he's not as outgoing as me. He's more of the introvert, more creative. And he sat in a cafe and he met people from all over the world that he had nothing in common with but the cannabis. And like, he saw like that was missing here, like that whole cannabis hospitality. So he comes back and he knows that me and my other partners have the resources to do something like that here. But when he says that idea, I'm like, you're crazy. Like, this is New York. I don't know about that. But we already had the real estate. We had the space. We had the cannabis. So we started with the simple, like he called you. Why don't all 4 of us call our friends and let's just do a gathering and bring our friends together and see what happens? And that went 0 to 100 really quick because, as you said, Led, like everybody was doing it, but everybody was in their own silos. So it's like we brought everybody out of the cannabis closet in a safe sanctuary space. So once we called all our friends, their friends called their friends, and that snowballed quickly. We started doing it once a month, like 200-300 people a night. Then once a week, 200-300 people a night. Then 7 days a week, 200-300 people a night. In 2019, before cannabis legalized, Forbes called us the Studio 54 Cannabis. And it was because of what you said, Led. It was like, and it would be a room like this, and no other reason would these people be in the same room together. So it would be like an artist, a rapper, a gangster, an athlete, a politician, all together because the only thing they had in common. I believe that cannabis is like this great scalpel that cuts through all the divisions in society. And like, people are so divided nowadays, so polarized. People don't agree on much. This is like one of the few things that almost every race and religion, everybody agrees on. It will bring everybody together because there was no neutral, safe sanctuary before us for everybody to come together. And that really took on a life of its own. So we had the foresight to understand that we were on to something bigger, like you said, than cannabis, bigger than that space. We were on to a movement. And before us, all the cannabis lifestyle companies and brands were based out of the West Coast. And you know, it's totally 2 different lifestyles, the West Coast lifestyle and the New York City lifestyle. So we said, you know what, cannabis isn't legal yet, but we can trademark and we can patent the company as a lifestyle company. So that's what we did. And we started first with media. A good friend of ours that John Ullman actually knows, named International P.
International P.
He was there and he saw that we had all these affluent people there and we had recording studios, because that's what it was, a recording studio. And he had the bright idea, like, why don't we start interviewing some of these people? Like, you have politicians, doctors, Wall Street people, like, and we started a podcast through that. And that was our first effort in media. Then we started a newsletter. Then we started going into like merchandise and clothing. And then we got into advocacy, because what happened was we had the fortune of being around a lot of people that had gone through the transition of legalization in California, Oregon, Illinois, etc. And they told us like how it changes and how if you don't really get it right from the beginning, that they'll make the laws really not equitable for communities like ours, for people that look like us. So we caught wind of that, and at the time, Cuomo was in office, and there were two bills on the ballot. One is the MRTA, which is what we have right now. It's the most progressive bill in the world with, social equity, most people of color owning it. But at the time, they were pushing for something called the CRTA, which was more conservative. It was like, highest bidder, no social equity, no home grow, etc. So we caught wind of that. We started a petition to vote for the bill we have now. We got thousands of signatures. We got hundreds of thousands of people. At the time, it was COVID to push it online. And we felt like us and many other advocate groups helped get the bill we have now. And that was like when we saw that we had to use our platform and our voice to make sure that we do our best to make sure that the cannabis industry rolls out for people like us, and that helps harm all the damage that it was done, especially in communities like this, where the last time people saw cannabis was somebody getting killed, people being arrested, people being deported. So if we were arrested, I think for affluent neighborhoods, for every one person that was arrested in an affluent neighborhood for cannabis, like 10 people were arrested up here. So it's only right now when this opportunity comes that communities like ours and people that look like us get the first opportunity to be involved in this industry. And we felt like we played a role in that, and that's how we ended up where we are now.
And it's funny you say that, because I remember when, it was like a hub for the whole cannabis movement, nationally and globally, because you will find people from all over, and it's funny how all these things coalesce, and you guys ended up helping to create the legislation in a sense that we see now. You know what I mean? And let's also say so then let's talk about there's a time like the pandemic hits. Let's talk about what you did up the symposium. What was the symposium about? What is that? When did it occur?
So that's a great segue. So remember, just to give everybody context, so we started this movement at the peak of it, right when we started all these things, the podcast, all these things. Thank God we had the foresight to think about that. COVID hit. So there was no more gathering. So the whole lounge and event thing died out. But since we created these other branches to keep our people entertained and keep the movement going through social media, through podcasts, through YouTube, through newsletters, magazines, all these things, we were able to keep our base alive through that. So now we fought for the legalization to be equitable. It happened. So now COVID is over. Cannabis is legal in New York. We can't go back to what we were doing before because we have to evolve with the industry, right? Because this is what we fought for. So what we did was we started doing events with establishments that had never associated themselves with cannabis publicly before. So first 420 in 2021, we did an event at Bobby Van's Steakhouse right across the street from Wall Street Stock Exchange. And that was really successful. First time they associated themselves with cannabis, came out of a lot of media and stuff like that. After that, we did a partnership with something called the Van Gogh Immersive Experience. That was like a global art installation that was all over the world and in a lot of major cities. They were here in New York. They partnered with us. They had a 50,000 square foot location by the East River, and we sold it out twice. One night was 1,200 people. Another night was 1,500 people, $200 a ticket. So the reason that this was so significant, it was another glass ceiling that we broke, was because it wasn't a whisper campaign like what Led came to. It was like tickets sold on Ticketmaster, like they were proudly partnering with a culture cannabis company, and that came out in like New York Times, Bloomberg, NASDAQ, etc. So that got us a lot of notoriety and showed that the world that like it's really okay to come out of the cannabis closet now. So people really took heed to that. Then what Led is talking about is that we noticed, right? Because I've spoken in every cannabis conference in America, UK, Spain, Mexico. So what we noticed was, especially in the city, was that these cannabis conferences were not in places where our communities are, where people like us live at. They were more like Tribeca, Soho, Williamsburg, etc. So what that means is that our people didn't have access to them. And even if they did, you would get priced out, because to go to these conferences, it would be anywhere from $300 to $800-900 a ticket. So we felt like we had to do something about this, because we understood that a major disparity that was happening in the industry was the lack of information and education getting to our people. So we felt like we had to do something about this. So what we did was we partnered with, I grew up in Harlem, in Hamilton Heights, Sugar Hill. We partnered with the local community board over there, Community Board 9, and Columbia University let us use one of their establishments on 125th. And what we did was we got influential people to help us do a symposium on education. So we got Congressman Espaillat to do opening statements for us. We got Mark Levine to come speak. We got the local councilman, Sean Abreu. We got the cannabis czar, Dashida Dawson, to come. We flew in a cannabis doctor that specializes on the endocannabinoid system called Dr. Rachel Knox. We got translation services, and we gave this all for free to the community in a place that was accessible to them in Harlem. And we were able to get sponsors to pay for it. So we made a statement that you don't have to charge $800 or $1,000 for a ticket, and you don't have to only do them in affluent places. You can also bring them to communities and places that look like ours. So that was like our way of paying it forward. Like, we were fortunate enough to get this information and being around those rooms that you said, and this is how we brought it back to our community in an affordable, attainable way.
Dope. Let's hear for that. That's amazing. And then, I mentioned when we started how this was Dyckman Electronics. I saw that you put the little bench there that says Dyckman Electronics.
Yes.
It's a dope homage to Dominican excellence, you know what I mean? Let's talk about the journey to Dyckman. Like, why Dyckman? Why was this important to be here? And like, you could be anywhere in the city, right? Why Uptown? There's plenty of dispensaries. You probably make more money somewhere else. Why here?
Well, it was like I said, like that was the first step, was the symposium. But I noticed, because I have access to be in a lot of the rooms where everybody was focused when it came to legal dispensaries, like 96 on down. Everybody looked at up here like there's too much trouble up here. Those people don't have money. They don't have any median income. Like, people were discounting our community. And I felt like, if somebody like us that doesn't really care about the community comes in here, opens up, it's not gonna be good for the community, because it's like I said, cannabis has been around up here for 80 years. That's not what was missing. What was missing was somebody that can have the cultural competency to explain why cannabis is good in English and Spanish. Someone that comes from the community, understands the values of it. Someone that could help. Like, I was just showing Jackie earlier that there was a gentleman, a young lady that owns the bakery down the block that's been here for 30 years. And these people want nothing to do with cannabis. I gifted her CBD balm for pain. It helped her with the pain. Now she has sent me like a bunch of people that would never ever step in a dispensary. This could be like, eso es droga, I would never come. But now, because somebody that has the cultural competency explained it to them in their language, went as far as to even gift them something, helps them understand the medicinal benefits of it.
Right.
So I felt like that's what we needed to do to make a change, because, like you said, like, this is the goal with this is for this to be like a beacon of hope, to be a landmark, to be a community hub like this, not just to be a dispensary that makes money. We could have did that anywhere. And we felt like our community suffered more than most. Our community has helped build this $6 billion industry, because even when it was illicit, it was built up here. So how could it be, after all the suffering, like I said, the murder, deportation, that now the good part comes, which is the legal benefits, the tax dollars, the employment, that everybody from 96 on down is gonna take it, and we're not gonna get any of those benefits. I feel like we had to come up here and show that this is the new world we're in, and we wanna inspire others to take the same route.
It's funny because with old Dominican women, pain is the way to get them, right? Like, lo dolores, tome the way that you know what I'm saying? But it's funny because I don't think people realize, like, old school Dominicans are, my mom, there's no difference between marijuana and manteca to her. There's no difference, right?
No.
There really isn't, right? Like, there isn't. I remember I moved out early out of my apartment, but my mom lived next door to me, right? So she would come clean my apartment. Yeah, I'm Dominican, whatever. And one time she finds a little roach she goes, Leo, y si yo me muero porque te fuma hierba? So she was like, Leo, what if I die because you smoke weed? I'm like, come on, Mom. Like, that's old school Dominican guilt, right? But that's the kind of guilt, you know what I'm saying? Like that mentality that weed is so bad. Like, how are you overcoming that here?
So I'm gonna give you a few examples of that. So I've done 2 presentations at the Dyckman Housing Project Senior Center, where I went with 2 different companies from here that have pain relief, different balms and stuff. And I went there and I did a presentation with them, and I can break it down to them in English and Spanish. One of the highlights since we opened here is the next day, it was freezing cold, 93-year-old lady that I spoke to that comes in here to buy the cream. Because it's like, if somebody like me or us that doesn't care, that's not willing to do that, how would they ever understand the medicinal benefits and how these pharmaceuticals are killing our seniors and our elders?
Right.
But you need somebody that has the cultural competency, not just the information, but the cultural competency to explain it in a way
and then cares, right? And then you care enough to do that, right?
And I'm from this community. I went to George Washington High School. I'm not somebody that came from Harvard or Beverly Hills.
Right. And it's interesting, right? So but what was the actual the business part of getting this open? What was the struggle like? When did you get the lease? Like, what was that like? 'Cause that must have been an ordeal in itself.
Oh man, that was a heavy ordeal, because what happens is the way that cannabis is not federally legal, so you have to get when a landlord accepts you for cannabis retail, either they have to own the property outright, meaning they can't have a mortgage, or they have to indemnify you. Indemnifying means that if the bank was to foreclose on you, you're the landlord, I don't get foreclosed on, because I can't we spent almost $2 million on this place. I can't get foreclosed on because whatever happened with you, so you have to indemnify yourself. So to find one of those two is very difficult, which means that somebody that owns the property outright, or somebody that's willing to indemnify you, and still they might charge you more because of the rent of that is cannabis, and then give you the other basics, which is similar to liquor. You have to be 250 feet from a house of worship. You have to be 500 feet from a school, and you have to be 1,000 feet away from another retail dispensary. So it's like, to check all those boxes is a lot. But I'm a firm believer that when the stars align, because we were checking everywhere, Washington Heights, Harlem, everywhere, and this was the only place that checked all those boxes.
It's meant to be.
It's meant to be.
It's meant to be. And what I find interesting too is, like, okay, I'm a cannabis connoisseur, so I do go to large dispensaries, but this is one of the flyest, right? It's like you didn't build no half-ass stuff for us, right? You built something really amazing. Why is that important to you?
Well, that's important for several reasons. Like, you said cannabis hospitality from the beginning of our company has been a big thing, but we also understand that the stigma that we're going against opening up here, we have to make it like, it can't look like a trap shop. It can't look like anything negative, because then we can't break the stigma. So now people walk by here, people are like, is that a clothing store? Is that an art store? Is that a furniture store? Which destigmatizes what people think. And like, even one of the people earlier told Jackie, like, some people I'm still struggling to bring here because they're embarrassed to come in here. So the more elegant we made it, and it was a balance of making it elegant and fly while keeping the culture, it makes it feel like if you're from the housing projects, you feel comfortable. If you live on the other side of Inwood, you feel comfortable, and you feel like, with the way that it's gone down so far, is like, the community doesn't feel like it's our store. It feels like it's their store. Why is that? Because they go to, let's say, downtown to Chelsea or Union Square, and they see a dispensary down there and say, I have a nicer one in my community. So now the community feels like they have something to be proud of outside of just cannabis.
So you have the store in Brooklyn too, right?
Correct. We have another one in downtown Brooklyn, the Fulton Mall.
And last time we spoke, you were mentioning about 4% of your profits go to the community. Is that correct?
So the way it works is, the way New York set up the program is that it's 13% tax. And the way that it works is that 9% of that goes to the state for public education, drug treatment programs, community reinvestment. 4% of that goes to the zip code or the town of wherever the dispensary is operating at. So what that means is that last year, New York sold $1 billion in cannabis. Before we opened here, Dyckman Inwood didn't get a penny because nobody was operating locally. So these are part of the reasons why we knew that we had to break that ceiling of opening up here, because there are a lot of hidden benefits that they hide from us about having a store like this in our community.
And what have been some of the surprises like that you like didn't expect that? Like what are some of the things you've come as being in business now less than a year, right? What is the thing like I did not expect that to happen?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, one of the things was there was like a lawsuit we didn't expect to happen that had nothing to do with us. There was like the OCM, somebody sued them, and during the period after we already spent money on the build out, everything was already in progress. We couldn't open until that lawsuit got taken care of. So it's just like external factors like that you have no control of. It was the real thing behind it was, because you got to remember, New York is the first state to put small and medium businesses as priorities first. In the other states, it usually works like, well, the big corporations and the big multi-state operators go first. So they weren't happy about that. So there was some veterans that they say was sponsored by some of these big corporations to sue that they were discriminated against to stop everything, because they were upset that they were not the first to be able to come to the party. So we had to suffer through that till that got figured out.
And it's funny because it's either you pivot or you plummet, right? And you've always been able to pivot. So what's next for Happy Munkey? Where else is it going? I think you got delivery soon. What else?
Yeah, right now we just rolled out our rewards program. So what that means is that everybody that's been purchasing here since we opened, they are able to collect rewards. Anybody new is able to collect rewards, which means that you get benefits for shopping here. We just launched delivery this week. So we're delivering. And right now, the next big thing that we're doing is that we want to host more events like this, just to help continue to pass the information, to destigmatize cannabis, to hopefully get others that used to be on the other side like us. We call it legacy to legal to cross over, because a big part of what our message is that we're no different than anybody in this community, that if we did it, they can do it too. But what we see in our communities is that if we don't see somebody that we can identify with that has been through our struggles, it looks like us, you don't think it's possible. I didn't think so once upon a time. So we hope to be that mentorship and to guide more people to come across to this side.
It's funny because like as long as I've known you, you've always had like this, it's brilliance, right? You have a knowledge of the marketplace, knowledge of the business, even the way you rattle off facts, like, and I'm assuming you didn't go to business school, right? Like, so where does all this kind of acumen come from?
You know, it's funny that you say that. I didn't graduate from high school. I went to George Washington. That was my final academic year.
Wow.
And the way that my perspective on life is that the best books in the world are people. And every time I meet a new person, it's like I'm reading a new book. And I've had the fortune to be around a lot of amazing people throughout my life. And because of that, I've read through some of the best books in the world. And I've been able to take that and apply it to my perspective, my knowledge, and to what I have going around. And that's sort of like the way that I've been able to accumulate my knowledge. Of course, I've read a lot of self-help books myself, but I really feel that I just have been really fortunate to really be around a lot of amazing, insightful, intelligent people and really absorb the information and apply it correctly.
I think we're almost done. Like, what would you want to tell the people of this community? Like, talk to the people of this community. What would you want to tell them?
Well, what I want to tell them is that cannabis is one of the last things left that can help us heal our community from a financial perspective, from a medicinal perspective, and from a moral perspective. Because when you really think about it, all the industries already have gatekeepers, and they mostly do not look like us. And this is one of the few industries that is in its infancy that we are experts in and we have a lot of knowledge in, and our communities have buying power in, and we can really benefit from if we look at it that way and we get over the stigma, because it's better for us to take advantage and use it to empower ourselves than for it to continue to be something that we get suppressed for, because that's what's been happening for 80 years. We're in a new time now, and we just hope to inspire others and help the community see that we are here to be part of the solution, not the problem, from education to information to employment to anything we can do. We want to make sure that we're empowering the community, because that's why we chose this location, because if not, we would have gone somewhere else if it was just about money. But we know that our community needs this more than ever. And please, if you have any questions, anything that we can do to help, we want to just contact us. We're here.
Love that. Community is the answer, especially now. Let's open it up to questions. Anybody have questions in the audience? Feel freely. Estamos en la gente.
Speak now, forever.
Liz, go ahead.
So, I'm a member of the community board. I'm speaking personally, not on behalf of the community board, but one of the things in conversations that we were having at the community board around legal weed and around licensing is the social equity piece and the tax benefit piece. And that people have to stop thinking about it as this overly moralistic, finger waggy, weed is bad. And looking at the number of people who got their lives ruined for something that was illegal then and is legal now. And that's just a huge part of the point, is to reclaim that. So those were really interesting conversations to have. And I think people didn't get that benefit of legal weed. So I guess that's more of a comment than a question.
Well, that's what we're here to combat. You know, now people can experience for the first time what that's like, because how could you want anybody to appreciate something that they've never seen before? Like I said, the nearest dispensary before we opened was on 125th Street, nearest legal dispensary. So if you're somebody that doesn't leave your community too much, how could they know what the different benefits are, that everything is lab tested in here, that you get information, that you get treated a certain way, that you got these benefits, if it never came to the community? And most people are just going to work and going home, and without having access to it, how could you really know what you're missing out on?
Mario? Okay.
I'm always fascinated by success stories such as yours. Hearing your background and your story and the things that you've overcome, what inspires you? And to the other youth of this community that may look at you now as a pillar, as someone that they can role model, right? What advice would you give them, and what inspires you? What inspired you to get to this place?
That's a really loaded question, Gwen, but I'm gonna try to unpack it the best I can. So one thing that inspires me is I have a daughter. I'm a girl dad. That's a big, I'm a big inspiration for me, every day. But on a deep personal perspective, I'm gonna tell you what keeps me going and gives me why and purpose, because I've seen, I've seen a lot of harm in our community. A lot of friends died, went to prison, and not here anymore. I'm a firm believer, Gwen, that people think the highest level of success is whoever ends this life or this realm with the highest number of zeros in their bank account. I'm a firm believer that whoever ends with the highest number of zeros of people they positively impacted, that's the highest level of success. So that keeps me going, because I've seen many people that accumulated a lot of wealth, and I don't think it ended up being as impactful as those that had less wealth but had a high number of people they impacted in the world while they were here. So that's what keeps me going every day. That's my North Star, is impacting as many people as possible while I'm here positively.
Let's go.
So I'm just curious, I really admire the fact that you, kind of like me, you like to leave the world or your immediate surroundings a better place than one in which you found it. And in terms of your delivery service, I'm just wondering if you're hiring. Because I know a lot of people in the community, and I like to imagine myself as sort of a rainmaker. I don't ask for anything in return, but if I can hook people up that might be looking for something new or some kind of sustainable employment, I was just curious.
We will be hiring soon. We just started literally Monday. So right now it's just basically a really small staff, really just trying it out. But as it grows, we will be hiring more people. Okay. So hopefully a lot more if it grows a lot more. So definitely.
What marketing are you doing to help people, as you were saying, advocate and educate people on how cannabis can actually help health conditions? Because I think that's going to help the community understand that this is not just about, up in smoke, right? This helps and heals people that have different conditions like anxiety and depression and many others that you know better than me. So how are you marketing that? How are you promoting that?
Well, what we try to do is, because unfortunately enlightens other people on some of the limitations of cannabis. Marketing is extremely difficult in cannabis. Since it's not federally legal, you can't do TV commercials, you can't be on the radio, social media, if you say anything with cannabis, you get banned. So we have to really be really strategic and really count on things like this, on the word of mouth. So I want to continue doing stuff like I did, like going to senior centers and educating people, and hopefully having an event like this where we can have them come over here so we can actually on the 29th of this month, a CBD company we'll have here is going to have an event where they're going to be giving people hand massages and showing people the medicinal benefits. So for now, that's kind of like what we're limited to, because marketing is really, really restricted when it comes to cannabis. So we really count on word of mouth and really engaging with the community more than anything, because we really don't have access to normal marketing like other industries do.
Are you tapping into the autism and spectrum communities?
I don't exactly have the access to them, but if you can connect me to them, that's part of the reason why we're doing this, because only a fool knows it all, and I'm no fool. I know what I know, and I'm here to learn the rest from everybody in this community.
No, I have an understanding that it does help children that are spectrum and autistic. So that's why I asked if you had any knowledge of that and if you were looking to explore.
Well, when it comes to the whole children's thing, like people 21 and older, that's really tricky because that's more of like a medicinal doctor thing. But we can help people that are 21 and older that have those issues, but we can't really deal with anybody 21 and under. There are studies where people have used CBD for epilepsy and different on children, but that's more like through doctors. And we're just adult use. We're not able to address that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So, you probably know about the finance provided by the state to assist, like upstarts with this kind of business. There's been some controversy over whether they are actually doing the job of like encouraging, new establishments in these kinds of communities. So I was wondering if you had any sort of engagement with them in the process of you starting out.
Yes, we did actually. What you're talking about is they had a program called DASNY that was helping people get started.
Right.
But there's some news that's coming out that they were a little predatory. And we were fortunate enough to be able to find private investors. And we didn't have to go that route. But unfortunately, it's really capital intensive to open these places. So, it's hard to say no matter what the terms are, because something is better than nothing, even if it's not the best terms, because it's really difficult to raise money for this industry because it's really expensive.
Do you plan to tap into the funding at some point?
Well, can never say never, but up to now we haven't had to, so hopefully we won't have to, but you never know.
We got room for one more question. I'm sorry, Liz. Go ahead.
So first, I just want to say congrats. I have seen you at the beginning stages of this project, and it looks amazing. It's the first time that I'm here. And just to piggy off his question, this is the first time I hear that 13% goes into the community, to the state. And are you involved in terms of, now that you have one, I just learned that you have one in Brooklyn, are you part of what happens with those dollars that are going into the community? Do you have a say into what projects are taking advantage or benefit from that?
I think that's a great question. And it's only been 6 months since we opened, so we haven't crossed that bridge yet. But what I will tell you is that I will be prying and doing everything in my power when we get to, like, let's say a year and we know exactly how much taxes we paid, to make sure that that money is going to organizations that are going to make a difference in the community. So we haven't gotten there yet, but that's something that we will be looking into heavily and using all our resources and our know-how to make sure that doesn't go into the political matrix and nobody benefits off of. So we will be holding them accountable to that, is my point, when that time comes.
Well, let's hear from Vladimir Bautista, Happy Munkey, Washington Heights Chamber of Commerce, Inwood Merchant Association. And we have...
Before we leave, events like this don't happen just because, right? It's a team of people behind. And I want to thank John Ullman for putting it together. And we have Jorge Taveras from Lógico Production. We have Sandra Lopez as assistant, and Sandra Rodriguez as well. So I want to thank you, Vladimir. I want to thank you, Ed. Thank you so much for welcoming us.
I want to say thank you, because this is history right here. This is usually done at a bar, a lounge, or a restaurant. This is the first time that you and your organization took a chance to do it at a cannabis establishment, because you believe in what we're doing. Yes. So thank you for making history and taking a leap of faith in me and my organization.
Well, and now, after we finish here, we're gonna go next door, have some drinks, some hors d'oeuvres, and then we can continue the conversation. Make sure you get it.
We do have goodie bags for everybody here.
Nice. And
a 10% discount code for each person for their first purchase.
Nice.
Just a token of appreciation for you coming to hear us out, to check out our establishment, and to make sure that you know that one of our taglines is, we don't do it for the clout, we do it for the culture. And I'm really humbled to have you all here today, and thank you. Because I know you could be anywhere in the world and you're here with us. Thank you.